Welcome into another edition of Target Score Winnipeg. I'm Joey Slattery. With me is Taylor Allen. As always, you can follow us on Instagram at Target Score WPG. Taylor's Instagram at Taylor Allen 31. Mine at Joey Slattery TV. If you're listening to this podcast, great to have you along. You can also watch this podcast on YouTube at Target Score Podcast. For those of you watching, great to have you aboard as well. Some crazy two games against the Alberta teams, Taylor. We'll start with Edmonton, but obviously the big game was in Calgary. The response to the loss against Edmonton, when they played Edmonton, it was a 95-92 loss that they gave up late in target time, and they totally flipped the script on that in Calgary. But just a wild two games here, and a lot of things that I'm seeing in the team I like, Tay, but man, oh man, the entertainment value over everything right now, those were two really fun games to watch.
You know, Joey, earlier today, I was trying to think if these might be like the most entertaining back-to-back games that we've seen the Sea Bears ever have. I mean, the Friday game, I was in my buddy's a wedding party. So unfortunately I wasn't there Friday. So I was giving my buddy Kyle a hard time. Like, hey man, it was a crazy Sea Bears game at the Misfear wedding. You owe me one, but, but man, what a way that one finished, right? Of course, Scotty Lindsay, the former Sea Bear, drilling a deep three, and he got like a Kawhi Leonard-esque type of bounce, goes off of the front rim for him and plops up and drops in the net. It's like, oh my goodness, like insane. And then of course, going to Calgary, they end up winning that one, but that was another crazy one. They're down big in target time. It's looking like it's over. They get some key stops. Simi Shittu with maybe the best play in Sea Bears history. I don't know. You can make that case with that huge block on Ruggsy Miller-Moore. And the Sea Bears get the ball. And, who is it? Of course, Simi Shittu. He finishes after a nice pass. And, Sea Bears escape Calgary with a big win. So, crazy weekend of basketball. Super fun games. And, like last week we said, for the Sea Bears, you'd like to see them probably at least split this Alberta series against Edmonton, Calgary. So to walk away with a 1-1 record, one heartbreaking loss, but one, exciting, thrilling victory. I think they could be relatively pleased with that.
Yeah, no kidding. And let's start with the Edmonton game because the Edmonton game was a thrilling one. It was very competitive back and forth, and I think we're really starting to see the parity between the top four teams, right? Saskatchewan will be in town on Friday, and I still think that'll be a good game too. They've got some good players. Bediako just set the rebounds record last week. Tevian Jones is coming back after his release, so there'll be some stuff there. It's the TSN national game, so there'll be a lot of hype around this one, but there's a lot of parity in the West. And then you saw that game with Edmonton. It was a game where it was back and forth the whole time. The thing for me, Taylor, was their third quarter wasn't terrible, right? Like throughout the broadcast, I was doing it for CJOB, and Kelly Moore and I were just talking about that. Like there were times where it wasn't good, and there were times where it got, I wouldn't say sloppy. I think it was like the defense were forcing some bad plays, right? Like there were a couple of like sloppy transition possessions for both teams kind of going back and forth. But overall, I was kind of impressed with the fact that Winnipeg was able to get some stops in the third quarter, keep it close, and then have a lead, going into to target time. I thought the way they put that together was a great game. But then you go into target time, right? And then there's some turnovers there that you don't like. And then you fall apart, right? It was a game for Edmonton to steal, and they did. And I thought they did a great job on a lot of players, except for, as you mentioned, Scotty Lindsay, man. Like Scotty Lindsay had 25 points 26 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. He was a rebound away from a double-double. He was everywhere.
6 threes, 6 for 11 from deep, Scotty Lindsay. And the Sea Bears team has been a bad three-point shooting team, so you see what Scotty was doing in that game. And by the way, he's 14 threes away from breaking the single-season CBL, or at least tying the single-season CBL three-point shooting record. So, it's just crazy that the Sea Bears had, maybe the best shooter, one of the best shooters in the league on their team last year. Don't have him this year, and this year they could probably really use him because, again, the three-point shooting has gone a lot better since Will Richardson has came to town. But that's got to hurt for Sea Bears Nation to see this former Sea Bear just drilling 3 after 3 after 3.
Oh, and that's like, and he was on fire, right? Like, this is like, we didn't see a game like that from him when he was with Winnipeg. And one of the things that we talked about in the broadcast was, is that a factor of having a full season, right? Because Scotty Lindsay came in mid-season last year for the Sea Bears, and I thought, maybe just getting, like, he had a year under his belt, with Winnipeg, comes into Edmonton. And when I talked to him before the year, like, one of the things he said is he loved Winnipeg, but Edmonton was really high on him. Like, Edmonton went after him. Jordan Baker wanted him on his team and made him feel like, we're going to build this team around you as a key piece. And, it's paid off 100% with that. His 3-point shooting was on fire that game. And then he ends it with the large, like, the massive game winner with the front bounce, the friendliest bounce I think I've ever seen. I thought it was out. Like, it was enough time for it to hit the front rim, and me think, okay, no, we they were able to fight this one off, and then it just falls right in, and I
You
was
don't
like,
see that
oh,
usually.
that's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
You don't?
on a short shot, right? Like, it hits the front rim, and you usually don't see pop up and go in. It's usually maybe the back rim goes up and goes in. So yeah, very weird shot. But again, like, that was a long three. He was like at least a foot or two behind the 3-point line. And Trey Scott, one of the longest guys on the Sea Bears, like, he was on him. He was in his face. He got a hand up. So I mean, hey, that's just one of those shots where you just got to like tip your cap. Like, there's nothing you can really do about that.
100%. Yeah, and I think that, it probably shouldn't have got to that point. The Sea Bears let it slip away as that game was going on. They did some good things though too, right? Like, yeah, Scotty Lindsay 54% from three is not really helpful when he's going off for 26 points. But overall, I mean, it was just him, Keon Ambrose Hilton, and Sean East, the third, or the second rather, he had 19 points. So did Ambrose Hilton. So there was the three guys that were the main contributors there, and you really just couldn't hold Scotty Lindsay, which was the difference. But they were better in transition in this one. They did allow 12 fast break points, but that's not terrible compared to some of the other games that they played. But it was a tough loss. I did feel like Edmonton came into that one and kind of stole the game, right? Like, that was the feeling of that one. And then they move on to Calgary, and there was something interesting that Mike Taylor brought up. I don't know if it was in an interview or in conversation, but when they lost to Calgary at home, right? The first time, this had been like 2 weeks ago. They, lose a tough one to Calgary at home, another tight game, and then they go to Montreal and have an incredible response, right? Probably one of their best full games of the season to that point. And they win in Montreal for the first time, which they have not done, obviously, in the first 2 years. And then it's a similar situation this time around. You lose to Edmonton, another close game that you couldn't close out. And then you find yourself in a market that you've never won before. They were 0-6 going into this game in Calgary. They've never won a game in Calgary. And with this game, again, like the whole time, I thought that was probably, I hate like saying like putting a crown on anything. I'm not going to say of all time or anything, but that was just probably the most important game of the season this year in the way that they won too, right? Because they went in to target time up 2 points, right? They had 70 points. The target was 79, which is the second lowest target score of the season in the entire league, right? And you're going up against a high-powered Calgary offense. So while they didn't score much, Winnipeg, like, more importantly, the defensive battles they were winning, and they were keeping pace with Greg Brown in the paint. But the way this game was won, you look at the lead that they blew up. I think it was an 8-1 run. No, it was an 8-0 run to start target time for Calgary, a 10-1 run total. And then the most miraculous comeback. Like, and there's so many things that worked in their favor, but also didn't work in their favor, right? Greg Brown gets fouled late with a chance to win. They're up. They need one basket to win the game. It kind of had the shades of Scarborough Shooting Stars last year, right? With Jackson Rowe missing those 2 foul shots, and then Alex Campbell hitting the big 3. Well, Greg Brown misses those foul shots. Game's still alive. And I'm thinking, wow, that's pure luck. But at this point, like, it's still like the cards were stacked against them until they won the game, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think I was comfortable at any point that they were going to pull off the comeback with Calgary needing 1 point. But that happens. Simi Shittu is the guy who breaks the 8-0 run because he gets fouled by Ruggsy Miller-Moore in transition, only hits one of the 2 foul shots. And even in that moment, I'm thinking, like, man, they really could have used that foul shot. Like, if they're going to mount a comeback, he needs to hit that foul shot. And then fast forward, can we talk about the Nate Balamu shot for a second?
Thank you. If you didn't bring it up, I was going to bring it up. So please dive in.
Put the scenario in place here. Like, let's tee it up nicely. Will Richardson gets fouled out in the fourth quarter. I think it might have been at the beginning of target time. Jalen Harris gets fouled out in target time. He was able to add 2 points before he was fouled out in the window, but he got fouled out in target time. Cumberland, who was making his debut, had 4 fouls, right? Nate Balamu is the furthest down the depth chart in this situation. Joffrey James was scratched for this game. So it goes to Nate Balamu, who had no points at this point. Going in, I don't know when the last time he would have played. Just looking at his stats, he only had 13 and a half minutes of playing time.
He was 0 for 3 at that point, I think.
Yeah, you're right. He would have been he was 0 for 3 at that point. He missed his only 3-point attempt. Acott sends the ball to him to the corner. Emmanuel Acott we'll talk about in a second too, but sends it to the corner, and he hits that big 3 that brings it to within a point. Right, this is what brought it to the possession that allows Winnipeg to complete the comeback. I thought that shot, it was so confident. It was nothing but nylon. I thought that was one of the most professional, situations I've ever seen a player in, like to execute the way that he did, hitting the big shot, then getting back on defense. This is a guy we've talked about. I wouldn't say at length. We've mentioned him here and there, but like we keep talking about this good story, and it just keeps getting better. And for all of the stars that are on this team and the revolving door, to see a guy like that's been here from the start, that really grinded his way into this team, hit that shot. To me, that was probably the spark where you start to believe, right? If you're Winnipeg, it's like, man, Nate Balamu came in here and put us in a position to win. Like, we have to finish this game off. And I do feel like that was the one where then Simi Shittu was like, hey, buddy, thank you for the break here. Like, I got it from here. And then, Emmanuel Acott too. E-Man.
Well, hey, before we go there.
Yeah, go for it.
Fate of the universe on the line, where the Martians have the death beam pointed at the Earth and you need a guy that better hit it. I want Balamu. Okay? I want Nate Balamu. Dude, unreal. When I know he was wide open, but he catches the ball and he lines up to shoot. I'm like, oh boy. Like, he has to take the shot. It doesn't matter. At that context, they're down, it's target time, the guy's wide open, he has to take the shot. But like my eyes got big. It's like, oh boy, here we go. And bam, he hit it. So yeah, I want Balamu. And again, like, this is a guy whose stat line is probably never going to jump off the page, but you need a guy like him where, like you said, there's a couple of guys fouled out. You're looking towards the end of the bench. You want a guy that could go out there and he's not afraid of the big moment, because, in that Final Four weekend, chances are, things could, what could hit the fan, and you'll need a guy like him to give you some solid minutes down the stretch. So I'm sure the whole team's confidence in him grew, quite a bit from that game alone. But it's not a huge surprise either. Like, we've seen Balamu, kind of impress in spurts when he's been called upon as well. So hell of a play by him. So
yeah. And I know it's like the pros, and it's kind of expected to an extent, but he is not a full-blown pro. Like, this is a guy that's just fresh out of school at Lakehead University that didn't get drafted anywhere in the CBL, walked on, and is now having a great season. And I think this is going to spark his confidence for a great career. And it was great to see. I don't know how many more times we'll see him in that position, but I do think he's earned the opportunity now to, have those opportunities if there's, target time availability here. Like, thinking on Friday, if you got a bit of a pad going into target time, maybe do throw him in there, right? Like, I'm interested to see how the rest of the season into like championship weekend, what his role will be like, because it's a very real situation or possibility that maybe he doesn't get much in championship weekend, right? Like, once you got to, like, you're only going to be using the depth where you absolutely need to be using the depth in those situations. But I mean, he's definitely earned a look, right? In terms of, and he's also earned that reputation that he can be depended on. So it'll be interesting to see how it moves on from here. But that was awesome. Acott in this game had 13 points, 3 rebounds, and 6 assists, including the game-winning assist. He had the assist on the last 2 possessions for Winnipeg. Monster game. This guy's coming out. There's free throw shooting still needs to get better. But overall, in the last 3 games, I really feel like Emmanuel Acott is finally settling in and finding some consistency. In that game against Edmonton, he had 15 points, 7 rebounds, a couple of assists, a steal to go along with that, and a block. Again, free throw shooting, 3 for 4 in that one, better one than normal. But yeah, he was 50% from the field. He had a great last couple of games, particularly. And I think E-Man is a guy, if he starts feeling it this way in these tight games, as we've seen now, there's two, you were on the losing end of one, the winning end of the other. But a guy like that can play huge dividends because he's a starter on this team now, right? And he started the last few games, with some very good talent around him, and he is playing at the same level and facilitating as well. And I thought it was really good to see him have a good couple of games.
For sure. And also, Simi Shittu, that might be, I don't want to, crown him too much, but that might be one of the best games any Sea Bears ever had, ever.
Oh, totally.
28
Totally.
points, 15 rebounds. Again, the clutch block. He finishes at the
It
rim
was
to
a
win the
Bob
game.
Ross painting, like
Yeah.
of basketball. There's just happy little trees all over the stat sheet. So, like, just to go over before you go on, he had 28 points, 15 total rebounds, 5 of them at the offensive end. He had 4 assists. He had 2 block shots, including the biggest block shot. I agree with that. That's the biggest shot block we've seen with the Sea Bears in its history. He had a steal there as well. He played 33 minutes, like just an absolute workhorse. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, and one Gronk spike, because after he hits the game winner, he spikes spikes the basketball into the crowd. Which I was kind of like, oh, like, could they tee him up for that and say, hey, this game's not over yet? I don't know what the rules are on that. But yeah, I was like, okay, that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, for a game that technically doesn't matter for the Sea Bears, right? Again, we all know they're going to be there in that West Division final in Winnipeg end of the year. Don't tell that to Simi Shittu, because you could tell that win, ending it like that, meant something to that guy. And hey, I loved that Calgary was poking fun of the Sea Bears for basically having the 2023 Calgary Surge as the 2025 Winnipeg Sea Bears. They had that hilarious Instagram post, with the guys, I think said the Winnipeg Surge on their jerseys with Simi Shittu, Trey Scott, Mason Bursay, even though he was in black and white because he's not with the team anymore. Yeah, that was hilarious. So then Winnipeg, of course, got the clap back after they.
But dude,
they won the
what
game,
happened there, right? Okay, so I was at the game, like I was in Calgary calling the game for CJOB, and I'll get into that experience in just a little bit. But when that shot was hit, I from my angle where the people were, like, I kind of saw it, but didn't, like, when I saw it on video, then I was like, oh, because I ended up talking to a guy afterwards. His name was Cam. He's like the super fan in Calgary, and he's like, yeah, no, he like tossed it at the bench, and I was like, oh, and then I looked over at it like at the airport. I was like, oh no, he like, yeah, no, he threw it at the bench or spiked it at the bench, and then afterwards in the TV portion of the interview, in the post game, he comes back to say like something along the lines like Winnipeg Surge what or something like that, like just making fun of that post that you were referring to. And then when he came on the radio broadcast, like he straight up said, this is personal. Like this was a personal game for him, for the team. A lot of those guys were returning to Calgary. Trayvon Scott's played there. He's played there. Jordy Chamanga's played there. Who else am I missing? Mo Kalu's played there. So like there are a lot of dudes that were there in the last few years, right? So anyway, I remember even talking to Jordy before the game. He said, like, I don't know any of the players, but I get to see all the staff again, right? Like, so there's a little bit of a homecoming thing there. But dude, it was like this now kind of starts to feel like a rivalry. It was too one-sided, and it still is. Like Winnipeg has to win a few big games, but like the passion behind that win, like when they won, like I cannot really stress like the buzz in the Sea Bears after the win. Like it was almost like this, like the shock took over when the ball went in, like when Simi puts the ball in, and then it's like slow for a second. But then once all the Sea Bears rushed the court, like they were flexing their hearts out, man. Like they were I swear to God, they were looking like every single fan in the eye, like trying to make eye contact with each one and just like flex on them and like let them know that they just won this game, right? It felt like it felt like a playoff game. These are two games that felt like playoff games for the Sea Bears. Looking at the stat, like at the record right now, what are they? 8-11, right? With a win on Friday, they would have the best record out of all of the teams that have hosted since 22, right? Because we talked about Ottawa, Vancouver, and Montreal not having good seasons, not getting past that conference final game. But this year, if they get that, they'd be 9-11 if they win on Friday, and that would be the best record out of the teams that have hosted in the regular season.
Which
But
is
what I like
insane.
about it,
That is an insane stat. That 9 and
but that
11 would be the
that's
best
not even a
record.
winning record.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that said, like we've talked about the mentality and the trickery of like trying to forget that you're hosting championship weekend. It is the reality, as Mike Taylor keeps saying, they're running a different race. We get that, but I do like what I'm seeing with what they're building. Those are two big wins. They have a game on Friday against Sask, and then in Vancouver, right? Then they have to go back to Vancouver where they've already won this year. Vancouver's in a little bit of a predicament right now too, because they lost the season series to Calgary.
3-0.
Huge, right? In a huge favor from Winnipeg, because Calgary is now a game and a half back from Vancouver. They were one game behind. Had Calgary won that game, they would have overtaken first in the West and very likely like securing that bye to the West Conference Final. So Vancouver, they're going into Vancouver against a team that knows that, Calgary's on their heels, particularly. Edmonton's not far behind. So that's going to be a good test for them going up against a Vancouver roster that is, full, that is a little pissed off, to be frank. And I think this is going to be another big test. Like, you are not in the playoffs, but the way that this schedule is kind of going out later in the season, you've got a couple of, got Brampton coming to town. That's not a one that you get up for naturally, I'm sure. Same with, Niagara coming. It's a non-divisional. It's a weird late one. And then you finish in Edmonton. So you're actually getting a bit, though, between the Vancouver game and the Edmonton game and the games you just played. You're kind of getting your playoff run now.
For sure. But I mean, there's one thing about Winnipeg that I think we still need to keep an eye on. It's the fact that like they're struggling as of late to win 2 games in a row. They're having like these huge wins. It's like, okay, they're turning this corner. They're finding their game, right at the perfect time, and then they'll follow it up with the loss or whatever. I mean, they did have that, what was it, that 4-game win streak, but that was back in June. Right. And since then, we haven't seen them, win back to back games, and not to state the obvious again, but like that's what they're going to need to do to win this thing, is they're going to have to win 2 games in one weekend. So, we'll pump the brakes a little bit on these guys. But with that said, though, I mean,
they played better on the road this year. It's kind of a flip flop from last
yeah,
year.
which is like a good thing, but also like not really a good thing, because again,
not this year particularly.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's like, okay, well, that's great. You could get that monkey off your back, but like that's not going to help you win the title this year. So, yeah, it's such a bizarre thing. Being the host and all the kind of weird quirks about it. Like you want to see these guys defend their home court and handle a target time better. Like that game against Edmonton, like they let that slip through their fingers, and yeah, they showed some mental toughness in Calgary and stuff. But again, like there's still some questions about this team. But again, with all that said, I do feel like they are trending in a positive direction. There's been many highs and many lows this season, but right now, with however many games that there's left, it does feel like these guys are, showing signs of a team that is capable of winning 2 games in a row when it really matters.
So I think 3-6 is what they are at home right now this year.
Yeah,
I just kind of scanned through the schedule. So no, like
pretty.
That's where those games are big now, though, in terms of the ones that, not easy to get up for, but you have to win at home. So the Sask one's big, that Niagara one's big, and that Brampton one's big. And I think that is the extent of their home games after this. But yeah, like you still have to get winning at home. And that's the thing. It's weird because this was their safe haven. Now it suddenly feels like, man, they're at home. Can they pull this off? Right. But I'm going to say that it's like the playoffs still, in the sense that it's the postseason. That's everybody kind of puts your record away when you get into the playoffs. Especially in this league, there's no series at all. Everything's single elimination. So this goes for every team, right? My biggest thing with them is you're basically hoping that whoever is playing in those first 2 games are beating each other up, right? Like, because I think sometimes the worst case scenario in this league, and we've seen it before, like Scarborough, when they won their championship 2 years ago, they were the team that snuck in, right? Like they were the away team on the qualifier. They didn't have a single playoff game, but they built that momentum on the way in. Now, the thing about Winnipeg that you have to keep an eye on is, let's say in a perfect scenario, they win out the rest of the season. Okay. And so that would be what, like a 5 game heater. So let's say they go on a 5-0 run to end the season. Well, now you've got a week off between your last game of the season and your conference final, right? So then you might have a team that comes in that's upset, and a very realistic upset in the conference finals. So my thing looking into that is you got to build your momentum, but then who's going to come out of the teams? Because it's going to be Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver. We know that. They're just jockeying for position at this point. But you've lost to all of the teams, right? Now you've beaten all of the teams, but you've lost all of the teams too. And the Edmonton team you beat was really early in the season, and that team's come a long way since then,
Doesn't
right?
even count.
Well, it doesn't count for two reasons. Well, it counts for Edmonton because their roster's been pretty consistent. They're like the Sea Bears of 2023. They haven't had much movement, but the Sea Bears team is totally different from that team in Edmonton. So they can only focus on themselves. This is you and I talking about this and speculating. We can speculate it, as media, as fans, and see how these all work out. But at the end of the day, all Winnipeg can do is control from within. The record doesn't matter this year, and maybe, you know what, Taylor, maybe this is the year to have the season they're having, right? Because it really means nothing. Because if we were in a regular season right now, where like, Winnipeg's not hosting, and I believe this will likely be the last championship weekend, so this might be the last team to ever get a bye into the conference final. So use it to your advantage in that sense, because sure, maybe you have a Vancouver type season, right? 16 wins, 17 wins, 20 wins, whatever they're going to end up with. But then you lose in the conference final, it's for nothing, right? So you can go through the adversity without the real repercussions of losing games and win this out. But you are definitely hoping that that first game in the conference, or the play-in game is going to be a slugfest. Then you hope that slugfest continues into the quarterfinal, and that you're going to be able to depend on the rest more than worry about the other team's momentum going into that final.
Joey, we can only hope this is the last time that there's a host team with the championship weekend. But anyways, I digress because I've gone on that rant many times before on this show. But
well, I'm pretty sure this is the last one.
Beautiful. That's music to my ears. Jalen Harris, Joey.
Yep.
What's going on? Not a great weekend from Mr. Harris.
No, but it's funny because when you talk to Jalen Harris a little bit, like, you get that sense of, like, I'll say this, where you get the sense of professionalism that he doesn't, like, it's not too high, not too low, right? Like chatting with him, it's just like, yeah, like, he's saying they got to figure it out, right? It's not, the urgency's there, but it's not a panic, if that makes sense. And I think he's bringing things to, like, outside of the actual playing that we're not seeing that's beneficial to this team. But you're right, he does need to produce better.
7 points for Edmonton. I think he was 3 for 12 from 3. I mean, I know there's going to be off shooting nights and whatever. Then 14 points,
but 33%, right?
And I don't know.
Yeah, no, he was 5 for 15 from the field in Calgary as well. He had 14 points. I do like the 5 assists and the 5 rebounds. But yeah, no, it's a guy that was brought in, I think with the expectation more from fans that you're getting the Raptors second round pick, and he's going to go off Teddy Allen style, because we've seen him do it in this league before too. I think part of this is, and I'm not making excuses for him, but I do think part of this is trying to fit in the system, right? Like, he's coming into an area that he's welcomed the role, right? That he's not going to be the primary scorer, and this is a team game, and you've got Simi Shittu, and this is the guy that needs to be playing the best. There's more pressure on Shittu than Harris. Further to that, with Harris, you've got backup now, right? And I'm interested to see, even from the Edmonton game to the Calgary game, there's a little bit more production there. But you got Jaron Cumberland, Will Richardson, you've got some strong Nate Bilamu now as well, but you've got some strong depth where I don't think his play is, like, his poor shooting performance isn't as detrimental as it might have been if he were in a situation where he was the Teddy Allen or the Justin Wright Foreman of the last 2 seasons, right? But it would be nice to see him get more production, but also with that misproduction, like, it's opening opportunities for other people, right? Like, look at a Simi Shittu taking down, 5 offensive rebounds on that, 15 total, being able to facilitate him. Like, he's missing the shots, but the shot selection, Taylor, is the big one. we're seeing less and less transition opportunities for teams that were smoking them in transition earlier this year, right? I mean, Calgary had a few. They're going to get a few, right? And there are a few unreal dunks again. I love when Calgary and Winnipeg plays because the athleticism in those games are nuts. But you've got I want to see his field goal percentage up. I think the shot selection is there. The other misses too. Like you look at that Edmonton game, like it was a really poor last possession, right? The shot that he put up, he forced like a mid-range floater that, in traffic that was contested. It wasn't a great shot. So the shot selection late in games, maybe, but at the end of the day, I don't think I'm okay with him going, 14 points, 5 for 15. I think I'd like to see a little bit more efficiency, obviously, but if you're going to win the game, it really doesn't matter, right? And if it's the shots, I think Mike Taylor can live with this too. If the shots are not going down, but you're taking the shots you're supposed to, sometimes it's just not your night. I think where the problem lies, and we've seen it with Harris sometimes, is it's not really that the shots aren't falling. Were they even there in the first place, right? But then you see him go in traffic and put up a ridiculous floater and hit it. Like it is part of his toolbox. But I don't know. It's I'm not overly concerned with it yet. I would like to see it, but I don't feel like when we're sitting courtside, like you don't feel the sails deflating, if that makes sense, when he misses a shot. Like you remember in years past, like if right forward missed a shot, there was kind of like the body language, right? Like, oh, like he put it up in the first 5 seconds, or Teddy Allen doing the same thing. And even with Teddy, sometimes he would hit the shot and you'd still see guys kind of like, oh, right, we're back on defense, right? Like we didn't even really get a chance to catch our breath. But I don't get that with Jalen Harris. I think the team buys in. I think they know what he's bringing, the shots that he has to take for his own rhythm, but if he can hit a few more heading into the playoffs, that'd be huge.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like you're right. In years past, it felt like if Teddy or Justin Wright Foreman didn't score at least 25 points, the Sea Bears were totally hooped. But yeah, with having some pieces like a Simi Shittu and Trey Scott, Will Richardson, or whatever, yeah, Jalen Harris doesn't need to go for 20 plus points
Put it this
every
way,
night.
we've only gotten to Jalen Harris half an hour into this episode.
Good point.
Like,
Yeah,
right? Whereas in years past, that kind of performance from a guy like Jalen Harris would lead our show.
totally.
Right. So I
Yeah.
think that puts the sense of like where the urgency is in it. Yes, everybody wants to see him do well, but like no one's really talking about it because it's a quiet struggle offensively for him. Defensively, they played so well against Calgary, and he was a huge part of that because he got fouled out and he still played 30 minutes, right? So like he's putting in the work. He's a workhorse. Him and Simi are putting up 30 plus minutes every game. Emmanuel Acott had the most time, I think. Emmanuel, 34 minutes for E-Man. So, this is a team that it's very, I'm starting to see that team mentality based on what you just said. It is a problem that Jalen Harris isn't scoring, but it's not a problem that's costing you anything. And I don't think it's getting people too riled up because Simi Shittu has just been, and just their inside game has gotten so much stronger. Like that was an unreal battle between Greg Brown and Simi Shittu, because Greg Brown, we talked about his missed foul shots. He had 21 points, 17 rebounds, and 2 assists. Like between the two of them, they had 32 rebounds in a game.
Yeah.
That's Simi Shittu and Greg Brown going head to head the entire time. So like this is a team that is like among the best big men, and that's where this is going to do. If you can get Jalen the winning shot, and open up those opportunities when needed, that's what they're looking for with him.
I think we need to dive into the imports here, Joey. The last time we
Yes.
spoke, the Sea Bears just had 4 imports. You're allowed to have 6, but only 4 can suit up on game days, for those that need the reminder. Now they have 5, Joey. They just
Mhm.
signed Jaron Cumberland, who made his season debut in Calgary. I think he played 15, 16 minutes, had 3 points. Obviously kind of a tough spot, just showed up and whatever. And maybe it's not really fair to criticize just one performance, but I mean, we have seen guys with the Sea Bears team who have just showed up and then had a strong debut. But it's a bit too early to kind of have an opinion on his game. But no matter which 4 they go with, Joey, I think it was a very wise move because this is a wacky league. You never know
Mhm.
when you could lose an import. And let's say they lost the guy today and it's past the signing window. It's like, okay, now you're down to 3 imports heading down the stretch. So this, no matter what, at least we'll give them that extra import if they lose a guy to injury or to better deal or whatever it may be, they at least have an extra import in their back pocket. So what are your thoughts on now having 5? And where do you think they go from here?
Well, the real test comes, they're all on board, but like someone's going to have to sit out the conference final. Someone's going to have to sit out the championship, right? Um, Jalen Williams was the guy that got the scratch first, right? It wasn't due to anything. They just wanted to get Jaron Cumberland in on his debut, and they need to start getting him some reps because he's coming in, brand new with very few games to play. He's a guy that they hope can add depth. To me right now, their guard depth is what needs the most attention, right? That's what they've been trying to fix with this. I think from a big man perspective, especially once Mo Kalu is healthy, he played a little bit in Calgary, didn't play much. I think he only played like a couple of minutes. A minute, but he's been dealing with some toe issues. So, assuming he's good to go between Chimunga, Kalu, and Simi, I mean, you're pretty good there. Trayvon Scott, Jalen Williams, I can kind of see them, like, this is just me speculating, but I can see them kind of swapping nights off for at least the immediate future. It'll be a matchup by matchup basis on where they figure they're going to need the depth. But right now, I mean, their field goal percentage is still, has been a struggle all year. Their 3-point shooting percentage has been a struggle all year. I think their guard play is where they need the attention. So Jalen Harris is not going to get scratched. Will Richardson is not going to get scratched. Jaron Cumberland, maybe, but like I feel like they brought him in for a specific purpose where he's very likely not going to get scratched. Even Terry Roberts, as of the recording of this, July 29th, he was on the roster last game, like on the not on the roster, but on the roster sheet. So not the game day roster, but the overall 14-man roster. So technically they have 6 imports. I don't foresee him coming back, otherwise he'd be back by now. But anyway, I digress on that. But it's a problem that was brought on, or a challenge, I should say, maybe not a problem, but a challenge that it's going to be for Mike Taylor to figure out who is going to play and keep everybody happy. If you win a championship, I think everybody's good with that. But it's going to be a hard conversation for that one American who's only being taken out for no other reason than their nationality, right? And trying to tell them that, in this situation, as good as you are, and you'd play in any other situation, but in this case, you are our 5th best American player. Try telling that to a professional basketball player probably doesn't go over well. But they're all on board. It'll be interesting to see how they go about it, but it's going to be a challenge, and I wouldn't want to be Mike Taylor in that situation come, especially the conference final, and if you win that championship game where you have to tell someone that they're a healthy scratch.
I can't see Trey Scott getting scratched either, to be honest. I think it's either going to be Cumberland or Jalen Williams down the stretch. And I mean, Cumberland, we'll get to Trey Scott in a second, how kind of good that he's been, how dynamic he's been. But
Yeah.
Cumberland and Trey Scott, they played together at the University of Cincinnati for 4 or 5 seasons. Do you think Jaron was recruited over to come take his old pal's job? Like, I can't see him, signing up to do that. So Jalen Williams has been really solid, but he just hasn't been, hasn't had the wow factor, I guess, that we've kind of seen
Yeah.
from Trey Scott. So I think it's going to be either Cumberland or Jalen Williams said no.
And I imagine that was a conversation with Cumberland too, right? That you might only come in for 3 or 4 games total because of that. But it really depends on how well the guards play from here on in and what kind of role that Cumberland shows us in the next, 4 or 5 games. Is this going to be a guy that is going to come in and build momentum, build a rhythm, and start, will he be the guy that's going to be like backing up Will Richardson or, Jalen Harris fresh off the bench? I agree with you that Cumberland and Williams make the most sense. You feel bad a little bit for Jalen Williams because, like he came back and he held on to his word, especially when you said Terry Roberts didn't come back. And honestly, probably a blessing in disguise with the way that Will Richardson's playing. It just takes away any extra drama. But, Jalen Williams, the guy that, held on to his word, staying for the season, even though he went to Summer League, he came back. They didn't want him to feel replaced, and I don't think he was. They just needed to fill the void while he was gone. But that guy's playing really well now, right? And that is the risk, I guess, if you go to Summer League, that someone else might take that spot and it might impact your role. Now, Jalen Williams is a really good professional. When he's on the floor, he's gonna play hard. I think he's going to play well. But you're right. Like Trayvon Scott has played incredibly well. He's filled in some boxes that were missing throughout this season, right? Like just in terms of his ability to track down basketballs, have an impact on the game when he can't score. Like, I look back at that Edmonton game. I think it was the Edmonton game, or it was a Calgary, but the game where he had like no points in the first half, but had like double digit rebounds, and like 6 of them were at the offensive end. Like just a dude that is like a competitive pit bull. That's a guy that you want in those situations. Like he kind of has that playoff makeup. You talk about like the hockey, right? Hockey playoffs and the type of players that win. Like he's got that kind of grit where it's like that playoff grit in the regular season and immediately. So this is going to be tough. But like again, to get Jalen Williams in, like I still think Trayvon Scott might be taking out a game or two here or there, just to fit Jalen Williams in at the 4, right? That's his natural spot. So, but come playoff time, I'm not worried about it in the regular season. I'll put it that way. Come playoff time, there's going to be a magnifying glass on that part of the roster to see who's going to be playing.
And maybe it's not a bad thing that you're going to be pushing, we'll throw Trey Scott in there as well, but you're going to be pushing Williams, Cumberland, and Trey Scott to really, be at their best because they'll have someone breathing down their neck for their spots. So who knows? Maybe if it's a healthy competition, could be a good thing. But if these guys are butting heads and not working together because no one, wants to be the odd man out, could get ugly. But I mean, this is how the CBL works, and these guys all sign up for it. So,
and I'll say this: that win in Calgary kind of felt like the bonding win, right? We'll see if it was, but that's the kind of win, like a turning point on a season in the way that they won, that they blew a lead hard. Like it wasn't a big lead, but they blew it and looked like they were about to blow the game. The Simi Shittu block to save the game on Ruggsy Miller-Moore, because that was a game-winning transition open layup, and Simi came out of nowhere, perfectly timed it, LeBron James-esque on Andre Iguodala, right, to get that, and then that seals the game, and then he seals it himself. So it's it'll be interesting. I'm not too concerned about it. I think this team is bonding. The healthy competition is definitely a thing, but at the end of the day, I don't think anybody's going to be moping if they win a championship, and that's what it's all about. And if they don't win a championship, there'll be some sour taste in the mouth, but it won't matter anymore because there'll be no more season left to play. So, that'll be that. But I do think we might be looking back at this game as the game that turned the season around, especially if they can string a few wins together here down the stretch. But it was a heck of a game. Two games. I wouldn't say, though, I just want to finish with this. I wouldn't say that they stole that win against Calgary. They might have stolen the target time, but I think Winnipeg really deserved that win. And that's not taking anything away from Calgary. Both teams played a game to win. I just think Winnipeg did a better job at, they averaged 95 points a game, Calgary. They scored 78, right? So I think from the defensive standpoint, they did what they were supposed to. They slowed down their transition. Yeah, they gave up a few, but overall, defensively, they were sound. They got key turnovers, key defensive stops. That was a really, really good game. So although they did come back and got some luck to win that game against Calgary in the end and, kind of put themselves in that predicament, they still won it, and I still think it was earned. So I just want to finish with that note.
Fair enough. And I probably go ahead.
Yeah, so okay, we got to talk about Calgary a little bit because I finally went there. It is a weird atmosphere for sure in terms of like the arena, but when you're there, I will say it's a lot louder than I expected. The fans that are there, there's a lot, like they are wearing Surge stuff. Like you can tell this, like the fan base really enjoys the team. It's very bright in there, that's for sure. But I actually was quite impressed with the stuff that you don't see on TV. Like I can see how it's a tough place to play when you're there as a team because it's the fan base. Like I think it's only like a 3,000, 3,500 seat arena. Maybe a little bit more, but it was pretty full on Sunday, and that game on Friday, looking at the highlights where they beat Vancouver, it looked slammed and incredibly loud in there. But no, it was a really fun game to be at. I enjoyed the atmosphere, and I think the game helped with that as well. And the team gave me a jersey, the Calgary 88s. That's their third jersey that they wore. I don't know if they wore it this year. They might have wore it last year, but yeah, no, they were like the hospitality was there. It was, they treated the out of town media really great. And, I got a chance to like talk to some of the people within the organization a little bit and see what they're all about. But this is a team that's been competitive for 3 straight years since they relocated from Guelph, and a ton of turnover as you can see with the 2025 Winnipeg Sea Bears taking a lot of former Surge players. But no, the atmosphere from a broadcast perspective. The one thing though that was funny, I think I took a video. I have to check my phone, but they had like the Goldberg. What are those things called? Like those fireworks, but they're not fireworks. Like the
Oh,
so
pyro.
any yeah. So anytime like the dancers were going, they would put on like that pyro where like the Goldberg used to walk through. If you're a wrestling fan, like Bill Goldberg would walk through and like he'd start like pumping his chest. Scared the heck out. They gave me a warning, but it scared the heck out of me every time. And I felt like Goldberg because I would just be like calling the game or coming back from commercial, and there'd be like the stuff falling on my shoulders. I was just worried, like, please don't burn anything. That was all I was worried about. But yeah, it was pretty funny in that sense. But no, it's I can see how it's a tough place to play. Like Mike Taylor's called it a tough place to play. And then when you see it there with the teams that they've put together and the fan base that they have there, I think the league is very healthy, at least in the West. I can't really speak to the East too much. And again, now that I've been there and you kind of see like all angles, like, I've only seen the camera angles for these games. So when you're there, like basically the people behind me, in front of me, sorry, that you wouldn't see on camera, like it's full on the other end too, right? So it's it's a much louder atmosphere. It's a very bright atmosphere. It still feels very much like a hockey arena. Don't get me wrong, but it's like I can see how it's a fun venue for players to play in.
It's too bad that the venue wasn't in downtown Calgary because the
Agreed.
venue
Yeah.
it's kind of on the outskirts a little bit. It's by like the ski hills or whatever, right? Like it's not really in the thick of things in Calgary. So it's a bit out of the way. Like after the game, there's not really like any bars or anything like really in walking distance that I remember. So I think that's something that's maybe hurting them a little bit. Like I think if
Yeah.
the Surge were playing in downtown Calgary with all the bars and restaurants and all the great nightlife and everything that downtown Calgary has to offer, I think they would very easily get well over 3,000 fans a game. But I mean, there's no way of just like picking up that arena and plopping it downtown, obviously. So I think that might be one thing that's kind of holding them back a bit. But yeah, it is a beautiful venue. Hopefully they can, fill it more often than what they currently do. It is cool when they do play at the old Saddle Dome when they do make that happen, and that's downtown, obviously, and those are always crazy atmospheres. But yeah, just seeing that third jersey though, it's like man, like the third jerseys, and we could devote a whole episode to this another time. But I like the third jerseys more in this league. Like whenever
Yeah.
the Sea Bears wear like that Winnipeg Thunder esque third jersey alternate that they
Yeah.
got going on, it's like man, I wish these guys would wear that one full
Well, I
time.
can tell you this:
Ah,
there's some work going in on league wide, really, on the jerseys. We're going to see some new uniforms coming out and some changes, I think, in the next few years. So, because I agree with you, I think some of the jerseys are too much. When you have the logo, the
cartoony,
city name.
It's they
Well, they're
it
cartoony,
looks
but
like a
you also
summer
have the
league
team
jersey,
name.
like it doesn't look
Well, yeah,
like a
but
legit professional basketball. And this isn't just Seabirds. This is a league wide issue, in my opinion. I think.
totally, because they have everything on it. Like you have your
Yeah,
city name, you have your team name, you have your logo, you have your number, right? A sponsor. Like there's a lot going on in these jerseys, and like it's one thing to have a bunch of sponsors. It's another thing when you're trying to put like your entire brand on the jerseys. But you're right, the third jersey, like the ones they were wearing on Sunday, are awesome. Like they're the Surge were in the black with like the like very faint
those are
red
nice.
pinstripes.
Yeah,
Oh, and just as Surge off the cross, like very like traditional basketball. Like, and you're right, the Winnipeg teal, my favorite Sea Bears jersey. Although I love the white look, but and the black look. I like all the Sea Bears jerseys. Like the color scheme is really
yeah.
good. But you're
Colors are
right, if
great,
they
and the logo
clean up
is
the front,
great, and whatever. It's just like, and again, this is a league wide thing. There's too much going on. I don't need the
totally.
logo on the front of a basketball jersey. You
Well,
don't
even
see
this
that in
that
the NBA.
88s one. Like this is straight up from the old team that played in the I can't remember the league that they played in, like the International League or something like that. And they were the 88s because the 88 Olympics. So like, but that was just like legit, like the old one. They have the rights to it now, and they put it there. But to your whole point about them playing downtown, like clearly it's on the radar because they're going back there again to play at the Saddle Dome to end the season. But the one thing that because I had Jason Ribeiro, the co-owner and president of the team, on the halftime interview, and one of the things he said is he likes the fact that it's a community there, and that's what it felt like. It's not Sea Bears Nation, that's for sure, but like the people that are there are diehard Surge fans, right? And you can see that they all know each other. The season ticket holders know each other. The owners and that know a lot of the names and the staff. I get that, but they're big on the live events. That was the one thing he was talking about in the interview as well. We're a live event company. We're marketing live events. Well, if you're doing that, it seems to me the best place to have a live event where most people can access it is downtown. Because you're right. Afterwards, I had to go get a bite to eat, and the closest thing was like a 20-minute walk to a St. Louis Bar and Grill, right? And it's like kind of hard to get to, like, and it's like too close to cab kind of thing. So I'm lugging my equipment trying to do that. So like I totally get where you're coming from with that. Like I wouldn't like it's a charming venue, I'll say that. Like, but I as I say it and give it its flowers for what it deserves, I
It's
don't
not a pro
think
basketball.
exactly. It's not something I'm saying this should be your full-time home. I do like the fact the CBL does have so many different arenas, kind of like baseball. Like each one kind of has its own quirks and a different environment. But with this one, like I don't think, like for instance, Edmonton, do not move. Like I think Edmonton playing at the Expo Center is a great facility. 5,000 seats. They nearly sell it out all the time. They have full ownership. It has its own vibe. It feels bigger than it is. I think you lose that if you go to Rogers or Rogers Place. But if Calgary went there, I mean, they had 12,000 fans at the Saddledome the first time, and if they know they can go there 12 times a summer, I think you probably would draw. But that's a decision for them to make, obviously. But I would like to see them move downtown for sure. I think it would make it easier to get to, more of a destination to go watch a game, as an out-of-towner. Like, I don't know if anybody's like losing their minds to go see that big ski jump where Eddie the Eagle jumped out of whatever 30 years ago, 35 years ago. So, I mean, it's cool to see. Don't get me wrong. When I'm going in there, I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool. The Olympics were here 35 years ago. But I think they're ready for a bigger time. And like, they do a lot of good stuff. Like their merch and their branding is pretty cool. And I think you bring that downtown vibe. I think that's a team that can thrive in that market, and like playing in a downtown arena.
Well, I got one last thought before I gotta hit the road here. Friend of the program. He's listened out to, I think, every episode, despite never watching a single minute of Seabears basketball, never being to a game. My colleague, good friend again, Jeff Hamilton, finally went to a Seabears game last Friday. I mean, don't give him too much credit. He did get the tickets for free. So, I mean, come on. Like, Jeff, you could spend $1 on a game. Like, we'll kill you, but whatever. He spent his Friday night at the Seabears game, and it was very funny, seeing all the texts and his feedback on
diehard fan immediately.
Yeah. From the on-court side of things to the atmosphere to some guy was vaping next to him, apparently. So that sucks. No one likes to sit next to a vapor, especially at an indoor sporting event. So shout out to Jeff for always listening. And finally now we can actually share his opinion. And actually will mean something because he's actually seen at least the one Seabears game. So there you go.
Yeah, he was very, very animated in the group text about the team's performance and where he feels they're at. And I think he's a diehard, and he's not giving the Seabears any leeway on this one. They got to earn Jeff Hamilton is what they got to do. So I'm sure now we're going to see Jeff Hamilton at championship weekend, though, because he's got to get his prep for Grey Cup coverage and stuff. So I think he's going to be there. Maybe he'll be the difference. Can you see Jeff Hamilton in the stands? His big Simi Shittu big head over his head.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Get him with Seabear face paint, maybe. I think we're only seeing the beginning of the Jeff Hamilton Seabears era.
Maybe.
Full-time number one fan. All right, the next game, on TSN. I'll be on that one too. I'm doing the sidelines for the national game on TSN on Friday. So that one is the national game on TSN. Saskatchewan in town, the return of Tevian Jones. We didn't really have a chance to get into that too much, but it's Saskatchewan. They're not very good, and they're not in the playoffs. But the Tevian Jones matchup, I'm looking forward to that. Bediako has been a monster as well, and anytime it's Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, it's going to be a good game. National TV helps that a lot. I think it's a doubleheader with the Bombers, too, so I'm sure we're going to have a lot of two-way fans going from one game to the next, but I'm looking forward to it. Taylor, any final thoughts on that?
No. Jeff Hamilton was my final thought, but yeah, I mean, this Friday against Saskatchewan, I wish this felt like more of a rivalry, but the Rattlers have just been so bad that it really kind of doesn't. But whatever,
they're not good.
Yeah,
but the Rattlers are here. That's a 7:30 start, and then they hit the road for a game against the Bandits on Sunday. They return home on Wednesday to play Niagara. We should have our next episode out before that. But that Bandits game is the one I'm circling on the calendar. That could be a huge win for the Seabears, and that's an important game for Vancouver as well. It's all the time we have. I'm Joey Slattery. That's Taylor Allen. We'll see you next time on Target Score Winnipeg.